Despite losing her son and never stopping her search for him, 5 years later, when she became a nanny in a mansion, she had no idea what fate had in store for her. On a sunny and pleasant day, she began a new chapter of her life as a single mother without the support of her family or the baby's father, who abandoned her upon learning of her pregnancy. She devoted herself to caring for little David with all the love and affection she could muster. After a few days in the maternity ward, recovering from a C-section, the young woman was finally ready to take her baby home. Filled with hope and expectations, she left the maternity ward with her baby in her arms, trying to balance her diaper bag and belongings as she walked down the streets. The excitement of being a mother and the responsibility of caring for an innocent life completely filled her. The breeze caressed her face, and she felt that despite the difficulties, everything would turn out well. However, suddenly, a black car approached at high speed and came to a sudden stop next to her. Before she could react, a man got out of the vehicle and placed a black hood over her head, leaving her terrified. The poor girl felt her baby being snatched from her arms and screamed desperately, "My baby! Give me back my baby!" as she struggled with the kidnappers. The young mother's cries and the baby's desperate wails echoed through the streets, but no one seemed to notice. Willing to help her, panic seized her body, and in a final effort, she tried to break free, fighting relentlessly. However, a blow to the head caused her to lose consciousness. When she awoke, she was lying in the middle of the street, her body aching and her soul shattered. The pain from the C-section felt even more intense now, but it was nothing compared to the anguish of having her child stolen. Desperate, the young woman got up and started running, stopping people she encountered along the way, pleading, "They took my child, please help me." People looked at her with pity and disbelief, but no one helped. Her pain and desperation were palpable, and every word was a cry for help. Exhausted and not knowing what to do, she fell to her knees on the ground, feeling the rain starting to fall, mixing with her tears. The poor mother lifted her eyes to the sky, begging for a miracle to bring her child back, and stayed there, kneeling in the rain as her soul shattered into 1,000 pieces. 5 years passed, and she never stopped searching for her little one. However, life continued, taking her down paths she never imagined. The young woman had always been kind, considerate, and full of love to give. Unfortunately, 5 years earlier, she got involved with a man who seemed like her Prince Charming, but turned out to be a worthless scoundrel who abandoned her when she needed him most after losing her baby, David. The young woman went through a long period of mourning and almost had an emotional breakdown. She took medication to manage the unbearable pain she felt, but she still couldn't stop suffering. Recurring nightmares of that dreadful day haunted her, and she often woke up screaming, her heart racing and her hands trembling. Her life was never easy, as her family was not close-knit, and she was an only child. When her parents found out she was pregnant, they kicked her out of the house, leaving her alone and homeless with nowhere to go. Jali had to fend for herself by working low-paying jobs to get by. The poor woman faced daily hardships, living in a small, leaky apartment, barely able to afford food and clothing, and spending sleepless nights thinking about her lost child. Loneliness was her only companion, and the hope of finding her baby was what kept her going. Despite all the challenges, that young mother never lost faith. She continued working hard, saving every penny, dreaming of the day she could hire a detective to search for her little one. Giving up was not an option. She was determined to fight until the end. However, in the meantime, she needed to find a job since her last one hadn't worked out. One day, while browsing job channels, she came across an advertisement that caught her attention from a wealthy family. They were looking for a maid and nanny to work in their mansion. The salary offered was much higher than she had ever earned, providing the perfect opportunity to save money and resume her search for David. With her heart filled with hope, She put on her best clothes, styled her hair, and called to schedule the interview. Shortly after, she headed there. Upon arrival, she was amazed by the imposing residence in front of her. She marveled at its opulence and beauty, imagining what it would be like to live there. However, she also felt a bit intimidated, fearing that the people in that house would be snobbish and rude, like most of the wealthy individuals she had encountered in her life. When she rang the doorbell, a handsome man with blue eyes and a contagious smile opened the door. "Hello, you must be Charlie. I'm Andrew, the father of the child you'll be caring for. Please come in," he invited, starting to show her around the house. The rooms were luxurious and well decorated with artworks and fine furniture, which increased the young woman's nervousness even more. They reached the room where the interview would take place, and she sat on the sofa, trying to stay calm while answering Andrew's questions. "My God, he's so handsome," she thought to herself. The girl couldn't take her eyes off the man in front of her, who, in addition to being very attractive, also radiated kindness. However, the reality was quite different from what she had expected. The wealthy man, instead of being arrogant and curt, asked her about her experience and skills. She explained how she had always been passionate about caring for children. Then he shared his situation. "I'm just trying to spend more time at home and work remotely to be closer to my young son. He's only 5 years old, and I don't want to miss this stage of his life, you know? However, my wife can't take care of him, and they haven't been getting along for a while." Raina listened attentively, trying to understand the family dynamics and how she could help. Suddenly, a woman entered the room carrying the child in her arms. She was an elegant woman with a regal and arrogant demeanor, but she appeared deeply irritated. Without ceremony, the woman said, "Oh, you must be the new nanny. Take this child, take him now." Surprised, the young woman responded, "We're still in the middle of the interview, ma'am." The wealthy woman didn't care and replied, "I don't care, just take this boy out of here." Andrew apologized for his wife's behavior, explaining that she was stressed and that their son had never liked her, something he didn't understand. He then introduced the child to Raina. "This is Pietro, my son. Say hello to her, big boy." To everyone's surprise, the little boy immediately ran over and sat on her lap, and she welcomed him warmly. Lovingly in her arms, the father observed the scene with amazement at the instant connection between the two. He had never seen Pietro warm up to someone so quickly and commented with a smile, "I really like children," as she played with the boy. The tension in the room eased, and Andrew continued the interview, asking more questions about Hallie's expectations and availability. As they talked, she felt increasingly comfortable, and her bond with Pietro only grew stronger. Without hesitation, Andrew turned and said, "I'm impressed with how you've connected with my son. The job is yours if you want it." "Really?" "Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew," she responded, beaming. The next morning, she returned to the mansion early to begin her job as a nanny. Her days were filled with hard work and dedication, but she grew more comfortable and happy to be part of Pietro's routine. It was evident how much the child liked her, and his father was amazed on several occasions. Andrew saw Pietro playing and laughing with the nanny as she taught him to draw or read him stories. He couldn't hide his satisfaction at seeing their bond, though it saddened him that his wife, Siren, had a distant relationship with their own son. Siren seemed indifferent to the closeness between the nanny and Pietro and was increasingly absent. This attitude troubled the businessman, who was concerned for his young son's well-being and the state of his family. Several times, Raina arrived at work and overheard the couple arguing in the office. "Don't leave him, Siren. He's your son, and you treat him like a stranger," Andrew said with frustration. The woman replied, "And what about you? You're not always around either. Besides, we have a nanny now. Isn't that enough? I want to rest. I'm going to Greece tomorrow with my friends for a month. I don't care anymore." "And what about Pietro?" the millionaire asked, disgusted. "We have that nanny to take care of the little pest. At first I thought she would be useless like the others, but since he likes her, at least now I can enjoy my life and relax a bit," Siren said, showing no regard for her husband's and son's feelings. Siren's sudden attitude left Andrew perplexed and disgusted. He was angry at his wife, but he knew he needed to stay strong and focus on his son and his work. Additionally, Jali's presence in the house, taking care of Pietro with such dedication and love, brought some peace to Andrew's heart. Days passed, and the businessman observed how Jali treated the child with love and always used kind words. She also began to look after Andrew by cooking for him, knowing he was busy with office work and didn't have time to do it himself. Gradually, these small gestures made Andrew feel increasingly charmed by her. However, he struggled to contain his feelings since he was married. Friendly and pleasant conversations between the two became commonplace, making life in the house even more enjoyable. "Thank you for taking care of Pietro as well. You have brought light into our home," Andrew said, smiling. "I am honored to help, Mr. Andrew. Pietro is an amazing boy, and I love spending time with him," she replied sincerely. But something in the millionaire's heart was changing, and he found himself watching the girl and the boy together more often, wishing his family were as united and loving as the relationship Hallie had with his son. One day, the young woman was at the mansion with Pietro when Andrew came home with a new haircut. It was cut very short, and somehow he looked even more handsome. Upon seeing him, she couldn't help but think, "Wow, he looks so good like that." Pietro, excited, began saying he wanted his hair cut like his father's. "Really, son?" the man asked, and the three of them laughed. Then Andrew approached the young woman, looking her. Their hearts raced, but they tried to contain the feelings that arose. The father suggested that the nanny take the little one to the barber to get his hair cut as he wanted. She nodded and said, "Let's go, Pietro." At the barber shop, the boy excitedly explained how he wanted his hair cut like his father's. The young woman watched attentively, a smile on her face. However, something she never could have imagined was about to be revealed. When the barber cut near the nape of Pietro's neck, she saw a birthmark that astonished her. It was a small constellation of stars, identical to the mark her son had when he was born. Her world crumbled in that instant, and she could barely breathe, but she tried to keep her composure. When the haircut was finished, the boy, proud of his new look, ran to her and asked, "Hey, Hallie, do you think it looks great?" "Of course, my love," she smiled, hiding her emotions. "Your father will love it." The poor woman drove all the way back, unable to stop thinking about Pietro's birthmark and what it meant. Could it be possible that he was her lost son? She felt fear, hope, and anguish. Upon arriving home, she found Andrew in the living room, eager to see the result of his little son's haircut. "Wow, look at you, big guy," he exclaimed. At that moment, their eyes met, revealing the feelings they had been suppressing. Trying to hide her emotions, she knew she needed to uncover the truth. But she was also concerned about what it might mean for the relationship between the nanny, the child, and himself. She felt increasingly lost and torn between her feelings for the businessman and the responsibility of discovering the truth about the child's birthmark. Her heart was filled with conflict and uncertainty. After putting the child to bed, the nanny went to the kitchen to gather her things and prepare to leave for the night. The little one had been more active than usual and ended up falling asleep later. The rain was pouring heavily outside, creating a melancholic mood that seemed to mirror her feelings of anguish and doubt. As she collected her belongings, Andrew appeared in the kitchen without a shirt, which left her both puzzled and amazed by his attractive appearance. With a worried look, he asked, "Are you leaving already?" She hesitated, looking down to avoid showing how captivated she was, and replied, "Yes, Pietro is already asleep and Andrew interrupted, moving closer. "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for us. I know it hasn't been easy, but you've been incredible with my son and with me." The young woman blushed and raised her eyes to meet his, which were shining with sincerity and admiration. "Thank you, Mr. Andrew. I care about you. I just want the best for Pietro. Please, just call me Andrew." "There's no need for formalities," he said. As they talked, the formality between them began to dissolve, and they unconsciously drew closer to each other. Their eyes locked onto Hallie's lips, and she could feel the warmth of his breath. Then, as if it were inevitable, they gave in to the passion that overwhelmed them. The kiss was intense and filled with repressed emotions, but it quickly turned into a moment of reality, leaving them breathless and embarrassed. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that," Andrew said, looking remorseful. "No, I'm sorry too, Andrew," Hallie replied, her own guilt mirroring his. Unable to hold back her tears, the young woman began to cry. Andrew, terrified that he had done something terrible, anxiously asked, "What's wrong? Why are you crying?" Through her sobs, Hallie decided to share her entire story, explaining her pain and the search for her lost child. As she wept, Andrew held her, trying to comfort her. Hallie could feel his heart beating in sync with hers, and his embrace and his woody scent made her shiver. Her tears wet his chest, but he didn't mind. Andrew listened intently as she described how she had lost her baby and how the birthmark on the back of Pietro's head had led her to suspect he might be the child she had been searching for. "The birthmark, Andrew. It's like my son's," she said. "I don't know what to do. I'm so..." Confused and unsure of what to do, Hallie lifted her hair, revealing the birthmark on the back of her neck. It was a constellation-shaped mark, identical to the one on the child's. "It's the same mark. How is that possible?" she wondered. Andrew, deep in thought, knew the child was his, but Shiren, or so he believed, was his wife. How could they have the same birthmark? Furthermore, Pietro bore some resemblance to him, which might explain the cold and distant relationship between Shiren and the boy. Stepping back, Andrew looked her in the eyes, his expression one of confusion and astonishment. "I'm truly sorry for what you've been through. If there's any chance he's your child, we'll find out the truth together." Hallie, surprised and grateful for his support, responded, "Thank you. I don't want to destroy your family in any way, but I can't help but think that it could be him." They realized they would need to face this search for the truth together. Both understood it wouldn't be easy, but they were committed to fighting for Pietro's well-being and unraveling the mystery that connected their lives. Despite the uncertainty and fear, the growing bond between them gave them strength to confront the unknown ahead. Determined, Andrew decided to take a DNA test to confirm paternity. He also collected a strand of Shiren's hair from her comb and took blood samples from Hallie, sending everything to a laboratory for analysis. Andrew awaited the results with anxious anticipation. During this time, he and Hallie spent increasingly more time together, and their bond grew stronger each day. Finally, the results came in. Andrew and Hallie were sitting together in the mansion's garden, holding hands in silence and hope. The mail carrier arrived and handed over the letter containing the DNA test results. With trembling hands, Andrew opened the envelope, read the results in silence, and for a moment it felt like time stood still. With a look of disbelief, he revealed that the test confirmed Hallie as Pietro's mother and was negative for him. "Oh my God," Hallie exclaimed, tears streaming down her face, unable to believe she had finally found her child. Andrew, equally confused but relieved, embraced her and kissed her passionately. "We'll get through this together, Hallie. I love you," he said, looking into her eyes. "I love you too, Andrew," Hallie responded, returning the passionate kiss. Overflowing with joy, they headed home, ready to confront Shiren and start a new life together. However, as soon as they entered the mansion, Shiren was there, seated in the living room, seemingly unaware of what had transpired during their absence and ready to take charge. "Oh, here you are, little maid. Go fetch me some wine, will you?" Sharon demanded, her tone indifferent. Hallie, holding the DNA documents, showed them to Sharon. Despite her attempts to deceive Andrew in every possible way, Sharon continued to lie until she could no longer maintain the facade. She even went so far as to kiss him, pretending that nothing was wrong. It was only when Andrew threatened to call the police and launch a deeper investigation that Sharon coldly admitted the truth. "I took a baby from a woman leaving the maternity ward just to keep you, Andrew. I wasn't going to ruin my beautiful body with a child. I needed to preserve our marriage to enjoy your wealth, didn't I? You've been out of my son's life for 5 years, you fool." Hallie was furious, and Sharon tried to flee, but Andrew restrained her. Shocked and enraged, they called the police, who arrested Sharon for kidnapping and defrauding Andrew. With Sharon out of their lives, Andrew, Hallie, and Pietro were finally able to be a happy family. United by love and the extraordinary circumstances that brought them together, they overcame the adversities and built a home filled with love and joy. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up. Activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our emotional stories, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next video.